Hey y'all, today I am talking about acceptance, and acceptance is really weird. People are constantly wanting to be accepted into society, into their friend groups, by their coworkers. On social media, people are wanting them to like, to retweet, to view their post, and people wanting the approval of their significant other. Acceptance is really hard, and that's one thing I've struggled with for a while, because when acceptance and approval becomes bad is when you start to seek the approval of men more than you do of God and what he would approve of. And so in 2014 I started to realize that I was doing that. And so 2015, the new year came around, and I decided one of my resolutions were to seek after God's heart more than men's heart. And it was really, really hard. And I still have not perfected it. I pray that I do. But I wanted to share with you a few things that have helped me in the process of seeking God's heart rather than men. And first, I would say that you have to realize that you and God are just like any other relationship, like you would treat your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your best friend, whoever it may be. Picture you and God just like them. And so if we're to treat him like a real, genuine friend, we are supposed to hang out with him and get to know him and see what he is like and what he approves of. But how do you hang out with God? It's back to the basics of reading the Bible, praying, and when you read the Bible, you get to know God's will and what he does approve of. Thirdly, apply it to your life. You have to apply because when you hang out with God and spend time with him, you get to realize what he wants and what he approves of and is accepting of. And then you can apply that to your life. And that for me is the hardest one, because Satan knows you are close to completing the mission that God wants you to do, and applying it to your life and being the light into the darkness is not what he wants. So he's going to try everything he can. He's going to make, for me, memorizing seem boring, and it is. I do not like memorizing, but the after effect of memorizing, I'm going through my day-to-day and I remember that verse, and that helps me. It's like, oh, I know God won't want me to do this because it says to go and make disciples of all the nations, not to go and tear someone down. Don't say something that's crazy and would tear someone down. And maybe it might not seem like it tears them down to you, but a little word the wrong way, because you're either tearing someone down or building someone up. It's never going in between. And so it's just like the little things in life too. Right before Jesus died for us, he prayed to God. And so I say that praying is pretty important because he prayed right before he went and took that leap of faith onto the cross and died for us. And so for us, what that would look like is we need to pray is a daily discipline, because it is important we talk and get to know what God, again, approves of. But that way, when we go out into the battlefield, just like Jesus went to the cross, he knows God has his back. He's in communication with him, saying, I know for us, I know maybe this kind text to a person I've been mean to recently, or just a kind text in general. You know Satan doesn't want you to send that, and he's trying everything he can not to. He's like, a text isn't going to do anything, but a text can go a long way. Send a kind note to someone who you are appreciating for, or just tell them you're praying for them. It encourages them, and sometimes their response, you're like, oh wow, it actually did do something. God moves, and when you obey him, he will reward you. And if you don't get rewarded here in heaven, here on earth, you will get rewarded in heaven, and it will be the best reward you have ever received. I can't wait. Another reward from praying is that when you pray, your priorities get redone. You put God on top, and then the other things follow. And so when you go out and you are with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you see that your priority is God, you won't seek to approve them as much. You can like get dressed up and stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is you are having them above God. And when you pray, you put God above men. Another thing that would help you with, and has helped me with fighting the devil's schemes of wanting you to be accepted by the world more than God, is reading the Word. And it's time consuming and it's not always fun, but for me, I've run a few half marathons, and in the beginning, in the training, it does not seem fun, but at the end, it is, and it's a ton of fun. And the same with our spiritual walk. And the beginning is going to be hard because Satan's like you're trying to fight the devil, but then when you read, you're fighting him, and then Jesus is like, oh, I got you, and you're like, yeah, but then you have these temptations by the devil, and it's a constant battle between the two. And it's just when you read the Word, it's going to be hard, but you gotta fight and fight the good fight, finish the course, and keep the faith. And when you do that, you will reap a harvest that's awesome. Another thing that helped me with seeking the approval more of God was memorizing the Bible. For a while, for school, I had to memorize the Bible, and it was James 1 through 2. And later, about a year later, I had that memorized, or I had already had it memorized, but I went through a hard time, and James 1 talks about perseverance must finish his work so that it may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And when I went through that hard time, I was like, wow, this is Jesus. Like, it's a sanctification process, and God has me. He knows. And then when I was struggling, it says, but when any of you lacks wisdom, you must seek God with all your heart. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he is that man should not think he has anything, but yet has everything. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. And so that just led me on how to handle that situation and how to persevere through that. And it was really encouraging for me. And so that's a benefit of memorizing the Bible. And I do not like memorizing the Bible, but again, the benefits that it has is awesome, and that is what keeps me going. And I understand for the beginning, when you have never experienced that before, it's even going to be harder, because you're like, oh, and then the Satan's like, no, I don't want you to do that, because I don't want you to be comforted later in life. And speaking on the topic of acceptance and approval, one thing that Satan likes to do is to show you something so many times to where it becomes, you accept it, and then it builds in your mind, and then you start to do it, and before long it becomes a sin, and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean for this to happen this way, but it did. So for instance, it would be like if I were to watch a movie and it had a lot of cuss words in it, and it's like, oh, it's fine, it's just a couple of cuss words, but then you see another movie and it comes out and you're like, oh, it has a few more cuss words, but oh, I should be fine. And so then you slowly, all this stuff comes into the movie and it absorbs into your mind. And that's another thing where you can help the devil. The armor of God will help defend the devil. And but if it does get into your heart and your mind, then it starts to come out and you start saying those cuss words and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I thinking? How did I get in this situation? And it all started with the acceptance of accepting this. And it could be smaller issues and bigger ways Satan likes to do those things. It's making sure you're firm enough if you're going to go watch those movies with someone else, that you have that armor of God on, so that way it does not get absorbed into your body and into your heart to where it flows out of it. So as a recap, the things that helped me seek the approval of God more than men was realizing that God and mine's relationship is just like any other relationship I have here on earth, and that I'm to spend time with him and to hang out and to get to know what he approves of and what he disapproves of. And I do that by praying and being in a constant mind of prayer throughout the day, and reading the Word and memorizing it, so that I get to know, by reading the Word, I get to know what he approves of and disapproves of. Memorizing it, I keep it in my heart, and praying it constantly helps me apply it to my life and helps me apply that what he approves of, so that way we are the light in the world that Satan doesn't want us to be. And so when you do go back down to the basics, seeking the approval of men becomes not as appealing. Your mind, Jesus fills your void, and your mindset is like, oh, I want to please Jesus. I want to do this. Because when you spend all that time with him, you're just like, oh, I love him. And it becomes amazing. And the rest of the things of the world, it's like, it's okay without it because I got Jesus.